Yes, I'll get to that towards the end. So what I'll do now, I'd like to introduce you to Damien. He's the Principal Circular Economy at Ratio. I've known Damien for a little while now, on and off through different over the years. Very informative guy, very aware of what's going on in the situation, and working with Ratio. I think he's been there for a little while now. Again, I won't do it injustice. I'll hand over to you, Damien. But again, thank you very much, and yeah, I just enjoy partnering with like-minded organisations like Ratio and yourself, Damien. So yeah, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Cameron, and thanks to everyone for giving up their day today. Can I just check, Cam, that's showing okay at the moment? We're right to go?
Yes, it is. If it's sides slideshow, it should open up.
Slideshow?
Yeah.
That'll look much better. Looking better?
Yeah. Yeah, and just minimize those boxes and we should be right to go.
How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
Looking good? Excellent. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's given up their lunch today. Hopefully we'll give you a bit of a rundown on what Ratio consultants are doing. Predominantly looking at opportunities for the circular economy. So I imagine most people have come here today because they're interested in circular economy, resource recovery, waste management, sharing materials, or just want to get a little bit of insight about what's happening across Australia with the circular economy. So I'm going to try and answer many of those things. I plan to do it through talking about a few case studies that we've been working on and just try to highlight how I've actually introduced circular economy practices and principles through those. So some of these case studies you'll be quite familiar with, and some will be very new. And my hope out of this is that we can help support you with some ideas for your projects and at least make you aware of some of the circular economy challenges, policies, and practices that are coming up in the coming years. So just a really quick breeze through Ratio Consultants. For those who haven't heard of us before, we're a consulting organisation. We specialise in areas of planning, transport, urban design, waste management, landscape architecture, and circular economy. We are originally based in Cremorne, Richmond in Victoria, but we do have offices as well in Geelong, in Victoria, Sydney, Brisbane, and a new one in Tasmania just recently opened. So predominantly up the eastern seaboard. We do work in South Australia, Western Australia, and Northern Territory as well. So we're available across Australia and do work in New Zealand as well. So just quickly, you're probably wondering, who's this guy talking to me? My background is around consulting, working in government, water industry, and the university sector. Essentially worked in areas of strategy development, program design, are capable to do work in circular economy and waste advice or assessments. I've actually done quite a lot of work in stakeholder and community engagement as well, and do professional training both in circular economy and ESG. Currently doing ESG work for Property Council and have done it for the Property Funds Australia. And really happy to be here today talking with you. So I'm going to breeze through this relatively quickly because I know my time is limited. Hope you get some good support out of this. So what we do, there's really four main areas of work that we do, predominantly in waste management strategy and circular economy strategy development. So we look at opportunities with councils, with organisations, with developers and the like, to understand what are some of the waste and circular economy strategies that they could bring into their company. Where are some of the gaps? Where are some of the opportunities moving forward? We do specific circular economy assessments on sites or on portfolios to look at what are the opportunities for resource sharing, ways to integrate supply chain opportunities and the like as well. We also do circular economy training, which is becoming very popular, particularly with councils and with businesses, just to demystify what is circular economy about and why should I care. And we also have access to a whole lot of other professions through our partnerships, one being Aspire, but we also work with a range of economic advisors and financial modelers, community engagement professionals, landfill professionals as well. So essentially bring together people across the whole value chain, I guess. So if it's a project to do with landfill, we'll bring in our landfill advisors. If you're looking at opportunities to look at long-term modelling, we'll bring in financial modellers. So it really depends on what the project is, but just wanted you to know that we do have access to a lot of these professional partnerships. So I'll just talk a little bit about first of our four projects that we've been working on. It's a pretty major one where we're working with the City of Coffs Harbour. So City of Coffs Harbour were coming towards a point where they had to develop their new waste management strategy, calling it a resource recovery and waste management strategy. And I guess the problem they were trying to solve was looking, what are those big strategic investments we need to make over the next 15 to 20 years? What are the things that we can work with our council and community in terms of program design, in terms of investing in material recovery facilities, in terms of investing in organics facilities, bin change outs, frequencies, bin frequency collection, business partnerships, commercial and C&D waste, commercial and institutional waste, that sort of thing. Looking at those opportunities, and we worked very carefully with all the stakeholders and community to understand what was important to them, and then set up a bit of a priority matrix around over what period, what are some of the really important key activities to invest in, what are the implications of those, and over what time period. And so all of that's wrapped up in a resource recovery and waste management strategy, which has just been delivered to council last week, undergoing final review. And with that project, what we were able to do was look at some of the opportunities to embed circular economy practices, which ranged from looking at everything from your trying to encourage food organics and garden organics, trying to get better value out of those, better recovery rates, through to setting up everything from circular economy hubs and things like cafes, sharing cafes, repair cafes, through to education with schools, education with communities, and just finding the right opportunities there, which would encourage people to look at value of the circular economy leading up to recycling. There was heavy dependence still on recycling, of course, but looking at what are those new opportunities we can work with City of Coffs Harbour. And one of those emerged during that, which we undertook a market sounding exercise with one of our partners that we work with, and we're looking at opportunities to extend new contracts and understanding what's the market situation for Coffs Harbour, who are some of the people out there that could potentially look at new contracting arrangements, what would those contracting arrangements look like, what's some of the new innovation, etc. So that's one project where we're trying to encourage through testing the market, looking at opportunities to bring in more circular practices and principles to those new contracts that will be negotiated in the coming years. Second project that we did in Victoria was working with the Melton City Council, and they went out to their community looking for an opportunity just to capture coffee cups, and looking at they identified it as an area that they wanted to resolve, and it was around knowing that many of the cafes that were around Melton had gone through the process of trying to minimise recycling, minimising disposable coffee cup waste, but they did understand that there was still the need to capture that and understand that waste stream in particular over a period of 2 years, and then see what they could do. So we came back with a proposal which they accepted, which was looking at actually working with an organisation called Simply Cups, who you may see through a lot of 7-Eleven shops, and another partner of ours to go through and analyse that waste stream, understand the implications of it, look at opportunities to capture those, and then use how we could actually capture and recycle those into a range of products, and essentially close the loop on that one waste stream. Admittingly, it is a small waste stream compared to every other waste and circular economy challenge that Melton City Council has. But it was seen as an opportunity to engage with the community and look at how it could actually start getting people to talk about it. And it was a waste stream that most people could understand and could touch, and could see that as something that they see in a day-to-day, week-to-week situation. So yes, around coffee cups, but essentially looking at how can we start promoting the communication around circularity, and then from there looking at other circular opportunities. So another outcome of that was, which wasn't anticipated originally, was the development of a community participation video, which we were able to do with a graphic designer, videographer who developed that as well, and it's now listed on their website. So that was seen as a way to actually then stimulate that community conversation. The third project that we did was working with another Victorian market. It's pretty well known, called the Camberwell Market. One of my team members was asked to work with them and partner on their waste management advice and look at opportunities to try and reduce the waste, obviously, but look at how, as part of market expansion, how could they look at opportunities to use their waste better? So what started originally as a waste management advice project then turned, and a technically focused project, quickly turned into, okay, how can we start working with the actual traders and new traders that come in, start looking at the supply chain, start looking at ways that they could actually minimize waste, minimize packaging likes before it became waste. Bear in mind that Camberwell Market does have a lot of organic waste, and then it was looking at other ways that we could work with their food organics and try to value that to the market. So it was really going in with an original project and start looking at the whole picture and thinking, well, what are all the other opportunities? Who are the traders? How can we start to attract traders to the site to get more circular outcomes? What are the cost savings that we could encourage, and what are some of the technical and societal and communication challenges that we can work with? And so key takeaways from that project, and it is ongoing, has been around partnerships. It's been around thinking differently, and it's also around assessing supply chain and trying to encourage the traders and the Camberwell Market to save money as part of this. Very important. The fourth one I want to touch on is, again, another type of project. It's partnering with the Nightingale organisation. So Ratio has done quite a bit of work in the past with the Nightingale organisations, and they're a boutique development that was originally set up in Brunswick and has since expanded to other areas such as Coburg, Ballarat, and into other states as well. And essentially it's around a project that's based on sustainability principles and trying to develop some developments that had really high sustainability principles and attract, I suppose, residents that also subscribe to that and are willing to participate and trying to reduce their environmental impact and look at opportunities to reduce waste, to reduce transport times, reduce car parking, and reduce and enhance sharing. So sharing, learning, common areas. So not only was there built on sustainability principles, there's also very much community principles as well. It's about understanding who's in the development with you and looking at opportunities to share and work together. So a pretty really interesting and a unique development, and something that we're starting to see other developers pick up certain principles of it. We understand that it is a marketing differentiator for Nightingale to other developments. They originally came to us and said that they wanted some help doing some waste advice as part of the development permit, and then we said, sure, we can help you with that. And then they came back and said, well, actually, we want to go a little bit further. We would like to actually do some audits on our business, our development, and understand what's the base case, what are some of the practical waste communication and exercises that we can put in place to help people understand what their impact is and how they could change that with a bit of support, a bit of education. So Ratio was said, absolutely, happy to help you with that. We saw it as an opportunity to test some educational programs with Nightingale. And from there, Ratio led some waste auditing processes, communication where a lot of the residents got involved and came down and understood how they could share materials, save costs, reduce their waste profile, and look at some sharing and recycling practices. And from that, we actually looked at opportunities to reduce Nightingale's carbon footprint as well, which is something that we're also looking at the moment. So I guess key takeaways out of that fourth project was, again, around partnerships, thinking differently, but also educating and partnering with the residents, not just through the development process, but actually talking to the people that are living there and understanding how they work and understanding what changes they could make. comfortably, and then over time build on those. And also reassessing some of the supply chains, like how do materials get to these developments? What are some of the practices that they could be a part of to try and change those practices for the better, so they're not just trying to sort things out at Enterpipe. So after there's four case studies, all quite different projects. I hope some of them are relevant to you. Just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the key learnings that we found through doing those and other projects. I would say most, probably all, involve collaborations. Most of the projects we work with do involve project partners, because circular, trying to encourage circular outcomes, often could be working from a landfill site, working with a council, working on a development, working through a market. They're all quite different. Many of those expertise and experience we have in-house, but often it does require some expertise that we partner with. So it could be financial modelling, could be assessing landfill sites, it could be looking at community engagement opportunities. The other really important learning, and we found it through every project we've done, is that there are real savings to be made here, and they need to be highlighted as part of these projects. If there isn't an incentive for developers, for instance, to be involved through dollar savings, it's pretty unlikely they're going to be involved. Councils are more likely to be involved because they have a longer, they have due diligence and lots of, a ongoing relationship with the community and the municipality. So they want to try to get some of these long-term savings in, but as well, they want to find out what is the value to the community, what will it cost us, how can we benefit through avoided costs, through current costs, and through avoided costs. And they also very keen on stakeholder and community engagement as part of every one of these projects. And I guess another learning that I found is, whilst some of these projects aren't new, a lot of the language has changed. And so just being clear around what we mean by circular economy, so that we can set a lot of our clients and customers up for success.
Daniel,
yes.
Sorry, Damien, I've got a question from Paul.
Yes.
As regarding the Nightingale project,
Yes.
Good question, Paul. Nice work, first of all. Does the carbon footprint with Nightingale include embodied carbon of the fittings and fixtures at all? Was that a part of some of the deliverables or something you're looking at with them?
Embodied carbon is definitely something that we're interested in that particular project, because we were brought in to look at just the waste impact, recycling. It was predominantly around the carbon savings from recovering, sharing materials, etc. But going forward, it is something that we want to do, and we want to grow that sort of expertise in. There's obvious savings in embodied carbon in the body fabric, as well as embodied carbon through, as you say, through all the fixtures and fittings as well, low energy fittings, reduced water efficient fittings and the like. So no, it didn't, but it is something that we're looking at developing.
Perfect. I know there's a lot of tools out there at the moment that can sort of assist in a lot of those things, and how those measurements go, and how you can sort of hit those targets. So yeah, it'd be good to probably maybe in a few weeks we follow up and see some of the key findings out of that. So I think that'd be nice and important for a lot of the listeners on the call, for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the question. So I might just move along to my next slide. For many on the call, this is not new. For some, it may be. So in terms of circular economy, some would be aware that there's a national circular economy framework coming from the federal government next year. It was just discussed recently at the Waste Expo in Melbourne by the Circular Economy Ministerial Advisory Group Chair, John Thwaites, who's a former Water Minister for Victoria. You may be aware, I'll talk about these in a little bit more detail, about mandatory climate-related financial disclosure, which is coming next year as well. There's also quite a significant investor expectation and ESG role in keeping investor confidence up, for particularly for large businesses, but that's something that's expected to roll out more broadly. We are seeing constant change to rollout of state and federal legislation with regards to a circular economy. They're roughly different in each state, although they are trying to get some consensus from what's coming out federally as well. And we do know that carbon price eventually will come, although many people are working towards a shadow price at the moment and critically aware of carbon minimization and reduction. I just wanted to show you this. I know it's probably small on your screen, but just in terms of the mandatory disclosure and in terms of a slide on the side, which came from PwC, just to highlight the complexity. So we know that from next year, there's 3 groups that are coming up through the mandatory disclosure, group 1, 2, and 3. We know that's going to affect those, start by affecting the larger businesses. So those with 3 categories, you have to hit 2 or 3 categories to become liable for this reporting. We know this reporting will be really important, particularly for those that are wanting to attract foreign investment or those that are willing to sell products internationally. But this is coming, and it's talking about consolidated revenue for Group 1, 500 million or more, consolidated gross assets about $1 billion, and for employees are about 500 or more, and those that are above NGA publication threshold. So that first round will start. It's got there from the 1st of July this year. I believe it's been pushed up to the 1st of January next year, but that reporting will then have to start from July next year. Second group will start, which will then attract businesses around 200 million, 500 million of assets and 250 or more staff. So you're starting to see the pyramid starting to widen. And then group 3 starts from 1 July 2027, 50 million or more, 25 million in gross assets and 100 or more staff. So it's starting to then really broaden to many businesses. There are a lot of ways of getting out of it if you're a group 3, but it's my main message around that is to let you know that it's coming. It'll be mandatory for businesses to start reporting on it. It's really important to start thinking about this if you haven't thought about it yet. And my other diagram I just wanted to bring to your attention, which PwC put out recently, which talks about some really positive things in terms of businesses who have sustainability strategy. Great thing. Only about 20% of those are actually bringing it in as an integral part of their strategy. There's about 36% of companies have net zero targets, but only about 4% of those have a target to be carbon negative. And the stats go on, just showing things like as part of, only 76% of businesses don't have an endorsed reconciliation plan. There's a whole lot of really key stats across businesses. We can see where it's going, and we can see that the intent is being flagged at the moment, which is fantastic. But in terms of where the actuals are coming, it's still a long way to go. So just all I wanted to do through that slide was just to highlight there is some complexity there. If you need support and understanding and pull apart some of this complexity, come and talk to us. Or if you don't have the in-house expertise, talk to us or other consultants that can help you with that.
Question, Damon. Can you just go back a sec for that slide? Obviously, the Jan 1st sort of next year number that comes in, what's going to come in very soon. How long do you think it'll take, obviously, for like the businesses to bounce back? Because obviously it's going to be a bit of a lay time. Like Jan 1st comes, bang, they've got to hit it, but that doesn't mean Jan 2nd, all hell's going to break loose.
No.
So how long do you think it'll take for the probably like the commercial aspect of it to actually find its? What's your prediction on that?
I think it's as of 1 July, as I understand, it's already been endorsed by both houses of the Australian government. It's going to come in on 1 July. People will be required to report on it it comes in on 1 January. People will be required to report on it 1 July next financial year. So that's going to come in really quick. That only covers a very small percentage of Australian businesses. My expectation that will actually, to trigger 2 of those 3 thresholds, having 500 million of consolidated revenue or $1 billion of the gross assets, that's actually, it sounds like a lot. I think that'll capture quite a few large businesses that are either covering large swathes of land. And what's interesting about it is going to require people to report on some of the climate impacts of that. Like if climate change was to go up by 1.5 or 2 degrees, how are those going to be impacted? So you're going to have to start reporting on those. So this is new. This has not been done before, and it's just a bit of a heads up that it's coming next year. I think the second and third group will be more of a wake-up call. Those that have 200 million in consolidated revenue or 500 million in consolidated assets, let alone the employee number. I think it's going to start picking up a lot of people. And then group 3 will pick up quite a lot of people. So my main takeout message about that is to think about if you're owning land or if you're managing land or if you're managing that will be impacted by climate change, you'll need to start thinking about understanding how climate change could impact that and start modeling that. So something to get prepared for. For many people, they may have done NGES before. They may have done some energy minimisation or Green Star, Neighbours rating. This is going to be, my thoughts are going to be quite a big jump. So start thinking about it. We're still waiting for all the direction and the guidance to come out, but it should be out relatively soon. So just, yeah, I would suggest start getting ready for it.
All right.
I'll just quickly finish up here so I can pass back to you, Cameron. So how can Aspire partners benefit from this? I mean, it's really all about collaboration, working in the circular economy space, sustainability, ESG. There needs to bring a lot of different expertise across a whole lot of areas. So it could be another Aspire partner that can help you with that. Could be Ratio, it could be someone else. I just think look at some of the partners that are involved through the partnership and reach out. You know, it doesn't cost anything to have a call, have a quick discussion with us or someone else. If we can help, we will. I would suggest have a really close look at the Aspire portal. The advantage of actually getting access to materials through there is quite significant. Have a look at that. Yeah, just look at opportunities for all of us to work together, because this the circularity and climate change challenges are going to hit us in the next 5 to 10 years are going to be quite big, and I think we need to start leveraging each other's expertise. We're certainly here to help if we can. And that's it for me, Cameron. Thank you for the opportunity.
Cool. No, thank you, David. Much appreciated. And a lot of that I know resonates with a lot of people on the call. So yeah, so thank you very much for that. And I'll the next sort of part that we're going to get to, team, on the webinar is we'll talk a little bit about Aspire and what we're doing and what we're up to. So just give me 1 second and I will share my screen. Let me know when you can see that. All good. Thank you. Again, thank you, Damien. Onto your slide. But again, just for those people that aren't aware of sort of what we do and what we do in the ecosystem. So Aspire, the fundamentals of what we do is we offer technology and support to businesses and organisations to provide expertise on the 6 sort of little icons down there. So what we do is we work with organisations. There's 2 sort of aspects to what we do. There's a consultancy aspect of it, but also the digital platform, the reporting aspect on it. We obviously help reduce costs on the waste disposals. We also have got an extensive supply chain of over 4,500 businesses that you can optimise your markets off that. We're actually ISO verified to be reporting your carbon emissions avoidance, which is really important. And obviously we've got over 200 different types of commodities that can be exchanged. And, you know, being a digital platform, we sit into the cloud, as you can sort of see there. So what do we actually do as an organisation? So basically, as you we work with organisations like Damien, but we also do circular economy consulting. So, you know, we offer strategic, customised strategies around their goals and objectives. And what we do is we go into those organisations and have a look and do a bit of a gap analysis and see how we can get those items or those gaps or what they're trying to achieve them and how we can leverage it through the digital platform. We do sustainable and resource efficiency audits. So we go through into an organisation, a bit of that gap analysis, see what they can be doing better, introduce them to new technologies or new industries that they can, you know, help achieve their goals. And also too, we do a lot of circular economy training. So a lot of our enterprise clients, we work with a day a week, sometimes 2 days a week, sometimes for up to 12 months or 18 months. We've got some organisations you'll see in a moment. We've been there with them for 4 years now. And we work with them extensively, up to 2 days a week. And by doing that, we sort of help them on their circular journey. And what our approach is obviously we try to drive, or the whole idea of what we do is drive technology solutions through the platform. you know, and with our industry and with our partners, you know, we've got over 20 years experience in providing practical solutions that you can actually use now to do that. That's really important. And obviously collaborative partnerships, working with the likes of Damien, Z20 from our last webinar, and the people I'll get to in a moment regarding our next. I think it's really important to leverage those partnerships because no one can do it by themselves. And one of the things obviously Damien spoke about earlier is obviously the mandatory financial disclosures that are coming in and reporting. We're actually certified to be working with organisations to be hitting those targets or delivering those data around that. So as you know, as organisations come to us and some of them come to Damien, we can work together to sort of help them minimise that risk. And obviously to minimise that risk, but obviously have a look at that as an opportunity. And as sort of Damien said earlier, we've got a pretty interactive dashboard. You can sort of see how it works here. You can create all different dashboards depending on your organisation, your partners, your supply chain, your value chain. It all sort of varies off the back of that. We've got a marketplace where organisations can put problem streams on or come up with or look for, you know, possible inputs to their businesses as well as outputs. There's all different things that we do and we offer. And one of the main sort of elements we actually brought in just recently is like a landfill levy savings for your business. And how that works is basically every state in Australia, not every territory, unfortunately, has got a landfill levy depending on if it's regional or metropolitan. And we go through and we can work out your landfill savings to your business by doing that. One of the things obviously we do too is we're ISO verified to be reporting on carbon emissions avoidance. Which is, you know, one of the key elements that you have to do with those mandatory disclosures that are coming up. So we can sort of help businesses with that. And also too, you know, we measure the revenue and a few different things like that. And we try to get businesses from where they want to, from where they are, work out a baseline and get them to where they need to be. I won't go through this too much, but this is some of the impact we've actually created. One of the things we do is create certificates around your impact and your embodied carbon and your resource efficiency and all types of different elements of there. You can see an example. But yeah, you know, I think at the moment we've saved some businesses over 5 million. I think the landfill diversion is actually a bit higher than that now. But yeah, we're doing quite a lot around, you know, trying to keep these resources in circulation as long as possible. You know, we really want to be looking at those reuse, repurpose, not just necessarily that recycling aspect. You know, there's a lot more we need to do with as an organisation to work with businesses rather than just go straight to that recycling. There's more of a mind shift change. And as Damien sort of said earlier, you know, it's all about the language has changed. A lot of the processes hasn't necessarily changed over years, but the language is, which is a good indication of things, new things on the horizon. I just want to step you through a few examples here of one of the organisations we worked with. So you can see here, just a perfect example is basically they had some flooding, as they do up in Queensland. They had, yeah, as I said, like 3,000 tonnes of road tailings that lifted and had to be removed. And basically by using the Aspire platform, we actually put that asset, we call them assets, onto the platform. And basically alerted people and already in their network. And there was actually an aerodrome not far from where they actually were. I think it was the local government there, Sunshine Coast, operated it. And through some minimal costs, they picked that road tailings up, grinded it out and spread it around the aerodrome. So the savings to the business purely by having to pick up and dispose of it was about 75,000. So yeah, just a little sort of win that we've got there. And this was just from, you know, working towards circular economy solutions and also to education around that. Here's another impact, and this is an organisation that we worked on, but this is more the sort of financial aspect around it. So over the series, I think we've been working with this organisation now for 4 years. We've onboarded about 115 staff onto the platform, but with that onboarding, it's all about, hey, this is how it works, but it's all about that mind shift for them and try to make them think about what they do at their day-to-day difference, right? And they've got over 2,000 staff in the organisation. And as a collective, they've saved over $2 million over a 4-year period. So, you know, this doesn't necessarily happen from day one, but it does happen and it does get there. Another thing I want to sort of speak about, I know Damien spoke about it earlier, but the mandatory climate reporting that's going to be coming in. We speak with a lot of organisations that are starting to get there. And I know there was a question that came in earlier regarding, which we'll get to in a minute, regarding about providing that data and information. And what we do is we work with not necessarily those tier ones or the group ones. It's more about the group 2 and group 3 that are going to have to be providing that information. It's about how you can actually step them through that process. And as from Jan 1st, these reporting are going to come in, but a lot of people just think it's going to be, affecting the group 1, but it's not. It's going to be affecting everyone in those value and supply chains. Because if group 1 are asking for it and you want to be working from those people that fit in that group 1 industry, group 2 and group 3 are going to need to provide that information. So we work with the organisations to, to align their data, see what we can do from that, make some reporting into that, and so they can submit that and hit their objectives and their obligations, so they can keep working with those contracts, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're making those steps and you're delivering that data out of your competitor, they're going to be giving it to you, not them, right? Because you're going to be making them look good, help them hit their target. So again, it's a very important aspect of what they need to do and how they're going to keep moving towards their goal, and also to the reporting, the mandatory reporting targets and metrics. So I know we've got a few questions that have come in. So what I might do is I might get Damien to come back on board, and we've got a couple there that we can sort of go through at the moment. But if there's any questions, team, please put them into the chat and we'll get to them. But the first one here, we've got one here from Shane Green. Here it is here. Our organisation is finding it difficult to obtain waste data from our suppliers, volumes and weight. Is there any movement in the waste sector services providers to provide that information? Can you see those questions, Damien? I'll hand this to you, but I've got a couple of thoughts on this, but I've just been speaking for the last 10 minutes, so I'll let you go for it.
I can't say. I'll just go to hopefully get that one. So just to answer that one, it's a really good question. Before I came to Ratio, I was working in DECA, Victorian Government, Department of Energy, Environment, Climate Action. And one of the big moves, one of the legislation that was set up was to put in place Recycling Victoria. So this is Victoria only. And part of that was actually to basically force a lot of the private industries to start basically sharing and disclosing that sort of information. So we found that residential sharing of waste and the like, residential information could be gained through councils, although it was very much a, even with councils it was opt-in, it was always really difficult to get information from the commercial contractors, and there was always quite a big impact from there. So we know it took a legislative change to do that through Recycling Victoria, and I'm hopeful that that's going to then start to disclose some of those volumes. Not sure if anyone, I'm sure people probably saw, but over the last week, all the articles about Sydney, the City of Sydney and their landfilling issues at the moment. So they're also struggling with trying to obtain that and trying to fix and come up with more circular solutions, really to understand how big the problem is. And until we get that information from other states, it's going to become pretty tricky. So, sorry, that doesn't really answer the question. I know in Victoria, we're looking at it happening there, and Recycling Victoria was behind making that happen. And the legislation is pushing private organisations to start sharing that. I'm hoping other states will follow soon after.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's been all over the news about what's going on in Sydney at the moment. And there's big reportings about the landfills are filling up, but exactly what are they doing proactively as an organisation and letting the commercial sector help sort that out? I know that's probably going to be a topic for our next webinar, because I know I was speaking to one of the guests about that not long ago. It was quite topical, but one of the things that I'm sort of, how Shane, you're saying the organisations find it difficult, and I think that's probably like that. A lot of it's about the behaviour about the waste industry. I think it's about their data. They get it. They're sort of being quite protective over the years, but I think that's going to be hopefully changing. But what we do is when sort of Aspire, we work with organisations, we actually measure it going out rather than just putting everything into a skip and letting your waste contractor take it. And then the reports are sometimes skew if you don't get them, or you might get someone new do them, or you just don't get them. So what we do is we work with an organisation to go, okay, cool, what's coming out of the premises at this time of day? What are the streams? And we actually record it in Aspire at that point. So then we've got one central source of truth. So we do a lot with organisations with that. It might be assets that do go through the platform, but sometimes it might not, or just go to a different contractor. That's a different sort of platform that we've got called Aspire Plus, where you can put historical data in. So we know actually what's coming out. It's actually not actually that hard to get the information that we find from sort of like the asset owner or the business that's actually got it before they give it to a waste contractor. So there's different steps. We sort of work with organisations to do that. But again, it's sort of like, how valuable are you seeing the data? How much resources that you want to put towards it is really important, because end of the day, it's behaviour change within your organisation. But we do come in and assist, and but there's different ways like that. Hopefully it changes a lot sooner. And as Damien said, you know, Recycling Victoria done a great job, legislative change, and when with Sydney, hopefully they, you know, follow suit with a lot of what they're doing. We've got another question here. Damien, it's from Paul again.
Yep.
Been good on the
See
chat
that.
today, Paul.
Support
Well
for
done.
carbon
Yeah.
credits. Yeah, thank you, Paul, for the question. Basically, we have clients who sustainability related or more related operational improvements, incremental in nature, not large capital projects. Would be great if they could also generate certs even with these types of projects. So we're currently not doing that work, but we have partners who do specialize in doing that work and carbon accounting. So I'm happy to give you some, put you towards someone who can help with that advice. But fundamental to that is having an actually active, fully functioning carbon price. It's been my hope for some years that a fully functioning carbon price would come into Australia, and you know, I've been working closely with the development industry and looking at opportunities such as adaptive reuse and the like. You know, the easiest thing is to come in, demolish a site, start rebuild. There are some really beautiful examples where they put adaptive reuse in, but to my knowledge, they haven't been able to get the credit for that, for retaining fabric, building material, where there's a really large embodied carbon aspect to it. That's something that I would like to see come in eventually, and I think that having a fully functioning carbon price would then start to trigger some of these things. So, sorry, that probably hasn't given you the answer. I can link you up with someone that can help you with that, and I think it is a legitimate thing to start tracking these carbon savings.
Right. Thanks, Damien.
Yeah, good point, Damien. I know obviously the Green Building Council of Australia, this might sort of answer your question too, Paul. They're bringing in a reuse tool for the rating systems of their buildings or fit outs. I know that I think they're talking some preliminary discussions about getting published next year about it, but it's how do you, like, obviously the carbon credits are great for a part of it, but it's also too, how do we actually reward the users for that reuse aspect of it? And by, you know, getting these building certifications at the levels that they need to get by Green Building Council, I think that's another good way to do it. It's sort of like, how do you pull that leverage point? So how do you actually, you know, reward or you measure businesses for doing that reuse aspect? If it's timber beams, if it's mechanical ventilation, who sort of knows? Is that secondhand timber benches? If it's furniture, the reuse, there's all sort of different elements that will come in. So hopefully GECA do that sort of element to it, or sorry, Green Building Council of Australia, sorry, I should say, that they will do that. But one of the things that we sort of do at Aspire is we sort of create, depending on the timing or the time period or off the asset that you really want verifying, but we actually we generate, like we call impact certificates, or which generate a report on a transaction or your business operations over a certain period. So with that, we measure the revenue that you've sort of made, the savings that you've made by reusing and repurposing. Obviously, sometimes those assets are a lot cheaper, and also the embodied carbon value. So as I said, we're ISO verified to be reporting on your carbon emissions avoidance by reuse or repurposing or re-commercing those resources. So we do that as, again, per project, per time period, per site, so we can actually generate that through the platform. And I know that some of those certificates that we generate, a lot of our customers use that to support the platform moving forwards, right? So they go, okay, well, we want to use Aspire for the next how long? We've got a baseline through the platform, and let's see if we can set some incremental goals around that. So, it's sort of like how we sort of do that with the platform. But it's really important part of helping these businesses do it. And I know we've just got another question here from Darren from Green Collect. Yeah, we just talked about the higher value and retention of reuse, right? And that's what we tend to do or try to do on the platform. We've just recently repurposed, I think, about 1,200 assets, which came out of an office, anything from dividers to desks, I think it was chairs, and repurposed them through the platform, right? So that's really, really important part of that reuse aspect. But what we do is we create these certificates, right? So then we can go to the project owners and see what they want to do sort of off the back of it. So, it's really important sort of aspect and part of what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, and it's like, how do you reward people for their effort? And how do you reward them now? But also too, how are you going to actually try to help them with those future endeavors? So, yeah, excellent. We're getting towards sort of the end of the webinar, guys. So just give me 1 second. I've got a really important announcement. So I'll share my screen again, and I'll just kick it off, because what I want to do now is talk about, can you see that? Is that came back up? See that slide deck?
Yes.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, so what I want to do is talk about, save the date for our next webinar. So it's 4th of December. I think everyone will be tuning down or winding down for the year, hopefully. But basically, what a really important one, we've got 2 of our partners that we've just signed, which is I'm really happy about this. So basically, we've got Global Green Tag. We've got David Baggs who'll be joining the webinar. He's talking about a lot of the stuff that he does and some of the importance of the information that he creates with the resources that he works with and all the industries, the manufacturers. And we've got another really important partner that we've been working with quite closely, is Vanessa Cullen from FD Circular. So yeah, so basically we're going to be coming together on the 4th of December. Again, it'd be about similar time. But we'll be talking about sustainability, circular economy, obviously drivers. Vanessa's really passionate, same with David in this industry. So we're going to be talking about key drivers on the industry, obviously state-based. I know one of the things we just mentioned, Damien, you did regarding Sydney and their landfill crisis that's been coming to a head. And just recently I had a look and saw one of Vanessa's recent posts on LinkedIn, which was quite it was quite great, because it was quite on point compared to what what they're actually saying and what they're actually doing. So, for those who are looking to join, we'll share some more information in probably the next 2 weeks about this webinar. But again, it's going to be a nice, exciting one. I'm really looking forward to it. And and again, going to be great. And also too, I'd like to thank Damien again for joining this. Really appreciate your input. Some of the work that you're doing at Ratio is super important, especially with Nightingale. We've been speaking to them too, I think off a referral from you guys regarding a couple of things. So, really looking forward to working with them in the partnership. But again, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone today for coming along.
Thanks,
All right.
Damien. Thanks, Cam.
Thanks, Paul. And guys, there's our contact details there. So please scan it with your QR code. We'll be sharing this deck probably next week, I think it will be. But also too, we'll share the the recording for anyone that hasn't been able to join. So again, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate your time, especially after those possibly in a long weekend. So yes, I'll chat to you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.